Hello, welcome to another English Sparkling with Tweedy and what will be the final video from this channel and indeed all of the Tweedy channels of 2024. So I thought I would go out with a bit of a bang. This is New Year's Eve, in fact. That's why this is the final video, certainly the final outing for filming of the year. I've been saving this quite special bottle from Breaky Bottom in my cellar for some time now. I can't remember how long it's been in there. And you can probably slightly get a sense for how long it's been down there by the sorry state the label is in. And I apologise to Peter and Breaky Bottom for the the poor treatment of their, I think, very stylish, very elegant labels. So this is the 2009 Cuve Gerard Hoffnung. This is the oldest wine I think I've ever had from Breaky Bottom. I'm recording this in late 2024, New Year's Eve 2024. So it's 15 years old, 15 years plus since this came off the vines. Not the most exuberant of pops, but then that is sometimes the case with older traditional method sparkling wines. They are inevitably going to lose a little bit of their fizz, but there is a decent showing in the glass, at least of bubbles. Sorry, as always, for the subpar stemware. So this is a blend of 60% Chardonnay, I think it's 22% Pinot Noir and 18% Pinot Meunier. I've had this a few times before. I think the first time I tried it, it was already 9 or 10 years old. So it's something I've always had in a fairly aged state. Don't know what this would have been like when fresh, but at least the last couple of times I tried it when it was already at a fairly advanced age, it was still remarkably lively, vivacious. I'm getting quite a lot of autolytic character from that initially. Lovely sort of pastry, baked bread, brioche kind of notes, with perhaps a subtle hint of something like lemon curd in there. A little bit of appley, baked apple sort of aroma, a little bit of a swirl. And with that slightly more vibrant, fruity kind of notes coming out. A bit beyond just apples and lemons there. I think I'm getting possibly slightly plummy notes, kind of green gages, something like that. I think they're in the plum family, aren't they, green gages? Maybe a hint of gooseberry, that kind of thing. So it's kind of beyond just the Chardonnay character. We're definitely getting some Pinot input there. I'm fairly sure of those stone fruit characters, but they're sort of towards the greener, fresher kind of side of stone fruit. Maybe a little bit of sort of red black plum there. Starting to get a little bit of a kind of bread and butter pudding sort of angle, more of that kind of brioche note, a little bit of dried fruit, something slightly creamy, slightly custardy. Quite a lot going on there, but despite all of those mentions of kind of baked fruit, baked notes, creamy autolytic notes, it does still give quite a strong sense of kind of freshness and liveliness. Cooked puddings with some fruit in and custard, and but a good streak of kind of lemony, appley kind of fruit. Wow, really takes you by surprise. The zing, the acidity there, it's still really bold. That is so incredibly intact. After 15 years of aging, you'd really think that would have fallen away, but this is still so fresh, so vibrant, so vivacious. It's a word I always seem to want to come back to with Breaky Bottom, vivacious, full of life. Lovely dry palate, mineral notes, zing that is possibly pushing both the kind of apple and lemon buttons at the same time. And yet there are also really creamy, really luxurious sort of baked pastry kind of notes on the palate there as well. Very, very long, lingering finish, very mouth-watering. That acidity is still tingling on the tongue quite a while after that last sip. I'm amazed by just how lively, how alive this is at 15 years. This certainly is not going into decline. I would be pretty confident this has a good 5 years at least left in it, maybe 10, who knows how far this could go. We're really into sort of fairly uncharted waters here. It's quite unusual for English sparkling wines to be aged to this kind of extent. I think there are some early releases from Night Timber that occasionally surface now and again, but the industry just wasn't that big in 2009. There wasn't a huge amount of wine produced around that time, a decade and a half ago, and so there just isn't a large stock of it still to taste. So getting some lovely additional English aromas now. Biscuity on the nose, there are hints of marmalade on the palate. One thing I love about this, the autolytic character is so nicely integrated in with the rest of the wine, and it's really beautifully well honed. I don't quite know how to express this. In the early days when I was starting to get to grips with champagne, I remember trying Moet and Chandon a couple of times. I never quite sure, is it Moet and Chandon? I don't know how you pronounce that. Having that a couple of times, I remember thinking it was incredibly yeasty. The autolytic character there was like unbaked bread. It was sort of bread dough, very, very yeasty, and I never actually particularly liked the smell of yeast in itself. Whereas here, the autolytic character is very, very refined, it's finished baked products. It's not anything that's partly cooked. It doesn't smell of yeast, it smells of pastry, biscuits, possibly brioche, as again, as I say, bread and butter pudding. And then that wonderful surprise of the zing. This lovely sort of baked, gentle waft on the nose, followed by that quite sort of, quite eye-opening, attention-grabbing zing on the palate. And after 15 years as well. And I think strong acidity in wine is, of course, one of the important things for a wine to be worthy of aging, to be capable of aging. So I really feel like this has still got quite a long time to go yet. I think there is a definite danger with a wine like this that I could go on for far too long, so I will try and keep this brief. But I think, summary is lovely baked aromas on the nose, that autolytic character so nicely integrated and refined, biscuits, bread and butter pudding, all that kind of good stuff. And then a wonderful contrast with the palate, which is really, really zingy, really alive, really fresh, really vivacious, and all of those things are hallmarks that this still has probably a long life ahead of it, should any of it still remain. As I say, I think you can still buy this from Breaky Bottom. It's not cheap. I think a case of 6 currently goes for 474 was it? And I'm not sure you can buy individual bottles, so it certainly is a bit pricey, but there might be available from other outlets as well. I just think this is wonderful stuff, really exciting, and I'm quite tempted. This was my last bottle. I am quite tempted to go and buy at least one more, to have one, for posterity. Happy New Year to everyone. Cheers.